you very much, Miss Lola. Thank you, everyone, for creating your time. Thank you for making this event a success and possible to happen. My name is Caroline Chelagat-Saina. I'm currently joining from Kenya. Receive greetings from Kenya. It is a warm right now. I don't know where you are, if it's cold, if it's summer, is it raining, all seasons. We are grateful. Thank you very much for being here today. Today, we want to break the bias. That's our theme topic today. We are discussing this topic together as an association, as Inspirers Network. In our midst, we have different guests, those who are also alumni, those who are not. And I would like to appreciate your time first for that. You're all welcome. Please join in. Please ask questions. Please participate. You're more than welcome to that. My message, I also want to thank the following special guests that are our guests that you're gonna be listening to them. Today we want to listen to them, how they have broken the bias and what is happening in breaking the bias in the industry at the moment. Why am I saying that? We live in a very dynamic world at the moment. And it's important that changing an intrinsic inclination of a certain bias in the society is important. It helps me as a person. It helps you as a person. So today we just want to discuss around that. And in our midst today, we are happy to have the following as the panelists. I would like to recognize the presence of Miss Juliana Plofia, the Executive Director, Girls Excellence Movement, is our special guest. I also want to recognize the presence of a subject expert panel, which include Dr. Regina Inem, Executive Director, Rejamos Foundation, class of 2021 ESLM. I also want to recognize the presence of Loretta Auk Peme. Please forgive me if I don't pronounce it right. I'm very sorry in advance. She is the Executive Director of Our Lady of Perpetual Health Initiative. She is also class of 2021-2022 ESLM Jagils. With these people that I've introduced today, we are happy to have them, to listen to them, to learn from them. Join me to welcome them. And as a message for the day, for the theme, it is us to participate in breaking the bias. You're all welcome. Feel free, share, and participate. Thank you so much, everyone. Receive greetings from our president, Miss Alma. She was not able to join today. And she sends you warm welcome and greetings. She's with us. She has been with us through this journey preparing this. So she has not missed out. She has done her work. So we appreciate her in absentia. We also want to appreciate the presence of the Executive Council of the Inspirers Network, the leaders that are here. We thank you for your time and commitment. And most importantly, the audience. Thank you for being here and making this happen. Thank you so much. I wish that you enjoy this session and let us learn and change the society together. Back to you, Miss Lola. Thank you.
Okay, a big thank you to our VP, Caroline, for the wonderful welcome address. Thank you so much. So next, we would like to showcase some of our beautiful women that are breaking biases and making us proud at Inspira Alumni Network. These are women that are bold enough to stand in places some fields are strictly for men. They have gone through fire, but they didn't die. They are redefined into some more, beautiful outcomes. We have them in different sizes and voices. Ladies and gentlemen, we are glad to bring to you. We are glad to showcase our own very own.
Women's Day celebrated worldwide on March 8th, seem to be emerging as an occasion for private rituals involving greetings, gifts, and flowers, much like Mother's Day. If that is indeed the case, it will be yet another transformation of a holiday that since its inception in the early 20th century has undergone vast changes. The first Women's Day celebration took place in Chicago on May 3, 1908. Organized by the U.S. Socialist Party, it brought together an audience of 1,500 women who demanded economic and political equality on a day officially dedicated to the female workers' cause. The following year, women gathered in New York for a similar celebration. Inspired by these American initiatives, European socialists soon followed suit. At the International Women's Conference, which preceded the general meeting of the Socialist Second International in Copenhagen in August of 1910, leading German socialists Louise Sitz and Claire Zetkin proposed the establishment of an annual International Women's Day as a strategy to promote equal rights, including suffrage for women. More than 100 female delegates from 17 countries unanimously endorsed the proposal. What would seem a fairly innocuous gesture marked a significant break with socialist tradition. Though ideologically committed to human equality, socialists had long argued that women's liberation would only materialize under socialism, and the only way for working-class women to improve their lot in life was to join working-class men in their struggle. Feminism was seen as a cause for middle and upper-class women with their own class interests in mind. Yet fearful that the feminist demand for female suffrage might attract too many working-class women, socialist leaders decided to embrace it. Still, they insisted that the vote was a means to an end, not an end in itself. On March 18, 1911, on the 40th anniversary of the Paris Commune, International Women's Day was marked for the first time. More than 1 million Austrian, German, Swiss, Polish, Dutch, and Danish women took part in marches and meetings. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire alone witnessed more than 300 demonstrations. In the following years, similar events spread across the European continent. Generally spearheaded by socialist women, demonstrations called for women's rights and female suffrage, and many feminists readily joined their socialist sisters. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 halted much of the international collaboration that had underpinned International Women's Day and sowed deep divisions among socialist women. Some supported national sentiments, while others protested the war and called for working-class unity across national divides. Eventually, many of these women, including Claire Zetkin, would abandon socialist parties who rallied around the war effort and instead embraced communist parties and organizations. Yet if International Women's Day generally floundered during the war years, it was an International Women's Day celebration that ultimately triggered the Russian Revolution. Russian women had first celebrated International Women's Day on March 8th in 1913. 4 years later, on March 8th of 1917, working-class women in St. Petersburg, exasperated by rising food prices and rapidly deteriorating living conditions, led a demonstration calling for an end to war and political autocracy. Once unleashed, their cries for bread and peace could not be quelled. By March 12th, Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate. The events of 1917 in Russia ended up setting the date for the celebration of International Women's Day not only in Russia, but across the rest of Europe. In 1922, Lenin established International Women's Day as a communist holiday in the new Soviet Union. The same year, Chinese communists began to celebrate it, and after the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, it was proclaimed an official holiday. Spanish communists used March 8th of 1936 as the occasion to stage a huge demonstration in Madrid demanding protection of the Spanish Republic against a growing fascist threat. International Women's Day would remain a communist holiday until the end of the 20th century, marked by carefully orchestrated state-sponsored celebration of women's contributions to the state. As women in the United States and across much of Europe gained suffrage in the wake of the First World War, much of the momentum for International Women's Day celebrations waned. During the interwar years, some European socialists and social democrats continued to mark Women's Day, carefully omitted the term international to distinguish it from its communist sister celebrations, but events rarely drew substantial crowds. It was only with the emergence of second-wave feminism in the late 1960s that International Women's Day re-emerged as a significant day of activism. Though the day never recaptured much attention among American feminists, European feminists embraced March 8th under the updated name Women's International Day of Struggle, or Frauenkampftag in German, or Kvinnernes Internationale Kampdag in Danish. The new names signal political radicalism and a resolute distance from organized party politics, both of which were key features of the women's movement in the 1970s and 80s. Nonetheless, March 8th celebrations typically involved not only feminists, but a broad assortment of left-wing activists, women's groups, and labor organizations calling for such issues as equal pay, political parity, reproductive rights, and childcare. During the International Women's Year in 1975, the United Nations first celebrated International Women's Day. 2 years later, in 1977, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution proclaiming a United Nations Day for Women's Rights and International Peace. Eager to disentangle this new holiday from the socialist origins of International Women's Day, the Assembly noted that it was to be observed, quote, on any day of the year by member states in accordance with their historical and national traditions, unquote. Moreover, in contrast to contemporary feminist practices of casting it as a day of protest, the United Nations billed it as, quote, a time to reflect on progress made and celebrate acts of courage and determination of ordinary women, unquote. In the decades since the 1977 resolution, the United Nations has in fact marked International Women's Day on March 8th, with events and activities centered around a particular theme such as Empower Rural Women, End Hunger and Poverty, which was the theme in 2012, or Empowering Women, Empowering Humanity, Picture It, the theme of 2015. In spite of such institutionalization of International Women's Day, and in following with its long history of competing traditions, March 8th is now marked in a variety of ways around the world. In many former communist regions, it's a public holiday. In Western Europe, it remains an occasion for feminist demonstrations, and in many developing countries, women's rights activists take to the street to voice their call for gender equality. In Italy, men allegedly give yellow mimosas to women to celebrate the day. And in the United States, some people apparently send cards and flowers to honor the women in their lives.
Woman be the key. Anything she want do, she go fit. Eye she go take see, nose she go take sense. Mouth sabi fine vibe. Her mouth sabi fine vibe. She for teach her papa and mama, pikin also. I sabi my mission. Truth or no be lie. Shun the damage. Shun the damage now I say. So ladies, bend your ears. Make you no fear. Make it bright past the years. Make it bright past gold. Make it bright past diamond. Make it bright past anything.
is a wall. Every word is a brick. Saliva is cement hardening the way that we think about gender or a group of people. A wall that separates us from the fact that we are all equal. An empowered girl is a hurricane that can paint the world in sunsets. Bias is a wall that tries to stop her, but her hurricane isn't done yet. An empowered girl can lead the world into change, and she can guide us into a place that's new. This is a poem to you. Let's break the bias. Bias is a wall that justifies someone laying their hands on their partner. When a woman wears bruises around her neck like perfume, it doesn't start with a fist. It starts with an idea that we hold or assume. Ideas like, women don't deserve to be in a presidential seat, but when a baby is born, a woman is the first leader that they meet. Or a woman shouldn't get the job simply because of a name on a resume. Or talking over a little girl because you don't see value in what she has to say. Or that women of color are aggressive, when I think we're just strong. And it is our strength that has the power to transform a scream into a song. An empowered girl is a lit matchstick that can burn into a fire. We need to knock down this wall so she can climb onto the rubble and stand higher. Let's break the bias. We can break the bias by knocking it down brick by brick. We can start by diversifying the friends that we pick. We can become conscious of our bias, conscious of the way that we treat people because of their age, education, or gender. It is through being conscious that a timber heart can become tender. We can remember that being biased doesn't make you a bad person. You can knock down a wall and turn it into stairs. It is through having the courage to confront your prejudice that you can show the world that you care. The future is calling on you to shape it. Will you be there? Let's break the bias.
Director of Our Lady of Perpetual Health Initiative, and I'm a gender and peace advocate. I work around health, peace building, environment, and gender. And in all of this, peace building and gender cuts across health and environment. And I am going to actually be talking about the capacity buildings that I have received so far, and actually Jacobs Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies has actually done so much for me. It has built my capacity on human rights, and also added value on leadership training when I underwent a master class strategic leadership class with them in 2021 and the human rights class in 2022. It's been wonderful working with Jacobs Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies, and I am actually breaking the bias by ensuring that the training my father gave me, because he was actually the first person that broke the bias in my life by sending me to school. And we are 8 girls, and in fact we are 10 girls, and he sent all of us to school except if you don't want to, because he knew that education is the first window to breaking the bias for women. So I am happy that I am doing what I am doing, and I have no regrets at all. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Please, can we put our hands together for that wonderful presentation? Wow, wow, wow. Unmute yourself. Let's give it up for our judges team. A big thumb up for you. This is surprises inside surprises. Doctor and his beautiful team. Thank you so much. All right, please. I have 1 or 2 sentences here that I would like us to repeat after me. All women on board. Please unmute yourself. Can you give me the symbol for this year? I'm breaking bias.
Breaking the bias.
Let me see your hand. Can you please bring it close to your camera? Let's see. Show me, show me, show me. Thank you, show me. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. All right, please repeat after me. I am proud to be a woman.
I am proud to be a woman.
Amen.
God made me.
I'm proud to be a man.
Okay.
I love that.
God made me.
God made
I
me.
love that.
And he didn't make a junk.
And he didn't make a job.
Proud to be a woman.
God made me and he didn't make a junk.
God made me and he didn't make a junk.
Didn't make a job.
No matter who we are,
No matter who we are,
man or woman,
man or woman,
we are born into roles,
we are born to rule,
which means I'm not useless to my world.
which means I'm not useless to my world.
Now let me see you break the bias with your hand. Break it, break it. Yeah, breaking it. Break it. Come on, show me. Show me. Yeah, like that. Pa, pa. Pop it off. Pa. We are breaking the bias. All right, thank you, everyone. Doctor, we thank you so much, Ambassador Dr. Jacobs Abbey. We appreciate you for that wonderful video clip. Next, I'll be handing us over to our Vice President, Caroline, as she takes us further. Caroline, over to you.
Thank you very much for the very nice videos of women telling us how we break the bias. And we also want to appreciate the gentlemen in our midst today. What I would like to do now, I would like to introduce our special guest who will talk to us about the topic of today, breaking the bias. And I will go ahead and introduce.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Juliana. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Hi.
On screen.
So sorry, I had a little technical hitch, but I'm here now. Thanks for holding space.
No problem. Welcome. You're most welcome. Yeah. Yes. So now let's introduce you, Juliana, to the audience, and then you'll share with us what you have prepared for us. Our special audience, Miss Juliana Ama Plofia. She is a problem solver, goal-oriented team player who is good at taking initiatives. Ms. Plofia has worked in the office of the President of the Republic of Ghana in various capacities, and has also served in committees that accomplish government initiatives and state events since 2008 till today. In 2013, she successfully managed the database upgrade project to enhance the productivity of the records unit of the presidency and train staff accordingly. She has also served in the standing committee that plans and hosts Ghana's Independence and Republic Day celebrations from 2010 to 2015. She was instrumental in the smooth relocation of the presidency from the Osu Castle to its current location, the Flagstaff House, from planning through to closing. She was also a member of the team that planned and successfully hosted the presidential inauguration ceremony to inaugurate President John Dramani Mahama, at which then the US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was in attendance. Additionally, our special guest, Ms. Glofia, led the team that developed the transport policy for the presidency and was a member of the team that developed the management policy for the presidential households, the Duse Lodge, Independence Square, State Banquet Hall, and many more. Not just that, as a member of the Fire Safety Committee, our special guest, Ms. Glofia, played a critical role in the development of the Fire Safety Manual for the presidency. She is astute in handling work-related pressure, and she's enthusiastic about change management and business process reengineering, an expert in managing multifunctional teams. Also, she was part of the team that planned the inauguration of High Honorable Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on the 7th of January 2017. Well done. As a member of the steering committee that plans state visits, our special guest, Ms. Glofia, has led her team to host Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall, Flotas Ms. Trump, German Federal Chancellor, among other world leaders. She has also worked in the team that planned and hosted a state funeral for Ghana's illustrious son, Kofi Annan. Our special guest, Ms. Glofia, is currently the officer in charge of the presidential households at the Presidency of Republic of Ghana. She also has oversight responsibility on the general administration, transport, fleet, as well as mechanic workshop of the presidency. She's also a mentor. She's a mentor on the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young Leaders, Young African Leaders Initiative yearly program under USAID and IRX. She's also a mentor on the Dream, Believe, Achieve network programs with Vodafone Ghana. Our special guest, Ms. Glofia, she currently serves also on the board of the Ghana Gulf Chamber Commerce, and also the head of State of Strategy for Health Intelligence Incorporation, a task she handles virtually. She's also a member of the executive board for Musica, that is Musicians Union of Ghana Presidential Grand Ball. She is the Executive Director for the Expert Project and Protocols, GH, a project management training, event planning, and protocol service provision company. She's also in the forefront of education. She has earned bachelor degree in political science from the University of Ghana. Further, she obtained a postgraduate certificate in budgeting and financial management, postgraduate certificate in public administration, all from Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, KIMPA, in 2010, 2011, and 2012, respectively. Throughout that, she developed the passion for managing projects. She successfully completed a project management course, and she went further to pass Project Management Institute's PMP exam. She's also on the society front. She was groomed by many development-oriented programs in high school. It's a pleasure to get to listen to her today. She went through Achievement Club in Order Senior High School. She will tell us more about that. And she's passionate about issues concerning the girl child in deprived communities. And she performs outreach in Girls Excellence Movement GEM, which she's the founder. She's also a member of the Lions Club, contributing her quota to the service of the underprivileged society. She's also a lovely mother of 2 boys. Let us welcome our special guest, Miss Julia, as she takes over. Join me to welcome everybody. Welcome, Juliana. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Even I am impressed. Who is she? Thank you so much for your kind words. For the purpose of this afternoon, I would love to be known as the Executive Director for Girls Excellence Movement. And nice to meet you all, alumni, and thank you for having me. Our discussion today is going to be in honor of breaking the bias. So before we go ahead on breaking the bias, I wanted to find out from us. I want our discussion to be very interactive. So we'll share a story, and then we'll use the story to discuss our own biases. So it's a story told of an old couple who went hiking. The man fell and had to be rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, they called in the surgeon. The surgeon arrived, and after examination, tells her team, I gave it away. After examination, the surgeon tells the family that, and upon seeing the patient, told the team that I cannot operate on him. He's my father. Who is the surgeon? I think I gave it away, but if you didn't get it, then let's rush to the hospital. The surgeon said, I cannot operate on this man. Who is the surgeon? It came to your mind that the surgeon could be a woman, then it means that your bias levels are a bit low, which is really good. It means that you are very aware of your bias levels, and you're very aware that being a surgeon is not automatically a reserve for men any longer. If your mind went straight to the fact that the surgeon is a guy, then your bias level is as high as many of us, and that is the reason we need to discuss the topic today. What is bias? Bias could simply mean prejudice. And before we continue, I said bias could be prejudice. It could be a lens through which we all view the world, filter information, and interpret ideas, and even judge people around us. With that definition, I need 3 people to share with me what their personal prejudice with, and I'll go first. I am biased in favor of men who are into cosmetology, men who fix hair and all that. I don't know why I have the bias that when men fix hair, they fix it nicer than women do. I don't know why, but that's my bias. So what is yours? Let's hear 3 people share their bias.
Well, I'll start. My biasness, it's more of when I see strong women. You know, for some reason, whenever I see a woman who is very strong mentally, and who is able to stand the test of time, I just fall for them, just like that. I mean, irrespective of, so all the women here, if you know that I call you often, it means that I have seen that in you.
Oh, nice. Anyone else willing to share their own biases?
Hello, my name is Kakra from Ghana.
Hi, Kakra. Share one bias.
I have a bias for male nurses. I prefer male nurses over female nurses. It's weird, but I prefer male nurses over female nurses.
It's good we know, right? We are aware, and that's the beginning of change. Anyone else willing to share? One more person, please.
All right. My name is Lola. My own bias is... Hi, ma. Thank you, ma. Anytime I see a woman driving a commercial vehicle, I'm always like, what? What are you doing there?
Exactly. So we all have our biases, and it could be conscious or unconscious. So that takes us to what bias is in the next slide. Okay, we said it can be simply defined as prejudice, and we said like prejudices, they inform the way we filter information, they inform the way we even interpret information, they inform the way we relate and judge human beings around us, they inform the way we even accept or navigate information. So biases are really critical, and it's usually great to know and be aware of them so you can handle them properly. Go to the next one. Next three. Yeah, it's having a preconceived opinion about people, things, ideas, even before getting to know them. So like my bias, the male cosmetologist might not be good, but because I assume they are good before I even get to experience their services. Like, is it Lola's bias? The female driver could be very good. The male driver could be reckless. But because we assume safety in driving is in the hands of men, and then women, when was the last time they even got the right to drive for them to be able to drive commercial vehicles safely? So it's a bias. And we have already formed that opinion before we walk to the bus station. So even before the woman shows us what they are capable of, we've already judged. We have a mindset. So during that driving, if I sat in that bus and she makes a normal mistake in driving, I'm going to expand that mistake and exaggerate it and use it to judge, if I'm not taking time, more women in driving. And that is how dangerous biases are if they are against. If they are for, they give unnecessary preferences and unnecessary favors and due opportunities and due advantages to the preferred against the unpreferred. So let's take it to our schools where, because we are biased towards male leadership, then if a male is the school prefect, he's automatically the entire school's prefect. But if a female is voted a prefect, we relegate her to girls prefect. So we call her girls prefect, and we call her male counterpart not boys prefect, but school prefect, because we assume and we have already judged that leadership lies in the domain of men. And that is how come when a woman stands for to be elected into parliament, we are thinking, what could she do for us in parliament? Politics is dirty. Can she withstand politics? But if a man stood, whether the education background is good or not, we don't care. We just assume once it's a man, he got what it takes to lead. And that is what biases do. They can be hostile. Like we could give the example of the ex-president of the United States, Trump, when he was very hostile towards Muslims because he has a bias towards the religion. He assumes that everyone from that religion was an extremist. So therefore, that influenced his decisions towards the whole religion and anyone that belongs to it. Similarly, he had the same bias against the Spanish people. So because of that, it influenced decisions around his time, mostly against. So decisions around his time were hostile towards the Spanish people because he has a bias that is against and hostile towards them. So that is what bias is. That. Can we go to the next slide? Biases can be conscious or unconscious. Conscious bias is a bit manageable because you know that you have it. So like I have a conscious bias against, if I am to choose between a woman to fix my hair and a man to fix it, I'll choose the man. And I think it extends to chefs as well. I prefer the males who cook because I assume my bias in favor of them is that they cook better meals than their counterpart female. And if we are using lawless, both of us are conscious. All of us who share our biases, we are conscious of those biases. So because we are conscious of it, we can control it. The danger here is the unconscious bias. So the conscious bias is something that is explicit. You explicitly know that you prefer certain groups of people over certain groups of people. Like I would prefer a female judge superseding or pretending over a rape case than a male judge. I just have a bias because I assume that once the female judge sits in there, she understands the nuances of sexual assault and will handle the case better than the male would do. But I am conscious about these biases. They are explicit. You can manage them because you know they exist. The danger is the unconscious bias. It's actually an underlying lens that you are generally unaware of, but it guides your decisions. It guides how you relate to other people. So who, with this definition or discussion, who can identify one of his or her unconscious bias? It's difficult to identify, but if you can try along the discussion, raise your hand and then share it with us. So unconscious bias is dangerous. So when we are talking about breaking the bias, we settle on that because you don't know they exist. It is difficult to control. It's difficult to manage. It's difficult to navigate. So you can unconsciously judge other people, be hostile towards other people, make decisions that affect other people negatively, or give undue advantage to other people because you are unconscious about the bias. But if you are conscious, then you can control it. That's why it's dangerous. Now, bias can be strong or partial. So I could have a partial bias that, yeah, maybe I prefer a certain bottled water. I'm biased towards that particular brand. But if I don't get that particular brand, I don't mind the next brand. But I'm biased towards a particular tribe, against a particular tribe. And that bias is strong. So I don't want any of my family members related to that particular tribe. Then that is a strong bias because I deliberately make decisions that based on looking into that lens. We go to the next. So who is biased? From the beginning, we've already established that all of us, every human has a bias. Every human being has a bias. And it is in acknowledging it that we navigate it. But how about the ones we don't know, which is the unconscious ones? That is why we need to make deliberate effort, take the bias test and do self-evaluation and self-assessment all the time, be conscious in our decisions and in our efforts and question ourselves and be sure that whatever decision we are making is not in response to any bias. Anyone is biased. When we discuss the types of biases, it's usually discussed from the point that makes it look like only men are biased towards women. But bias is like a human attribute. Most of us, almost all of us, have the biases. And men just like women, are biased against women in some situation because of stereotypical roles that we grew up with, the programming we received, and that pitched men up high above women and all that. All those things inform why men are biased towards women in certain situations. But interestingly, women are equally biased towards women. And we will see that as we move along. Okay, so what are some of the characteristics of bias? We have the gender bias, which I'm sure most of us have heard before. It is the preference. It is where a particular gender receives preferences or is disadvantaged because of the gender they belong to or the gender they have identified with. So if somebody receives favor because they're a man, if there's a position and the man is automatically chosen, and with all assessment, all things point to the fact that they got the role because they are men, then that is gender bias right there. If a woman deserves, merits a position, but is overlooked and in taking that position, she's not given that position, then we know that she's being biased, she's suffering from gender bias. We have ageism bias, where we believe that old women are witches. Old men with their gray hair have wisdom. Young people lack wisdom. They are foolish. They only have enthusiasm. They have nothing to add. Old people, adults have all the knowledge. So these are examples of ageism bias. We also believe that age comes with forgetfulness. Meanwhile, the young could also forget. So that is ageism bias. And women suffer that a lot, especially in Africa, where a woman was recently stoned to death in Ghana because she was old, one. That is ageism. She was a woman too. That is another bias she suffered. And she suffered religious bias, which I will discuss later. The daughter had gone to a preacher man who told the daughter that the mother is a witch and the mother is the reason she's not succeeding in life. So if the mother were to die, then the floodgate to her success will be open. So this woman went home and was able to rally an entire community to support her in stoning her own mother to death. And that is ageism, and that is a multiple of biases that woman suffered leading to her death. We have conformity bias. So I said the woman was able to rally the entire community. Now, I'm sure a few people started throwing the stone first, and then the rest decided to follow. Once they followed, they were trying to conform to what majority was doing. So conformity bias comes in the form where we try to do things not because we feel convicted about them, but we assume because other people are doing it, it must be right, or it must be the right thing to do. In social media, we would have called it trend. It's a trend. So once everybody is doing it, we all join. And conformity bias, I remember a story around it clearly where a head teacher had raped a young girl who was a student of his school. And the rape or the sex situation happened using a kitchen stool. Those of you from Africa, you know the kitchen stool. I don't know how to describe it to our colleagues from the West. I think that could qualify for a coffee table. I think so. Yeah. And when the video was leaked, you see adults, even feminists, well-meaning people, open-minded liberals, lawyers joining in that, they call it a trend, where they hold on to their coffee table or their kitchen stool and twerk their bodies, pretending to be acting like the girl in the sex video. It was so appalling, but because they called it trend, conformity bias set in and a lot of people joined the trend even though it was wrong. Then we have religious bias, where we discussed earlier, where we said, we give an example of Donald Trump. having a religious bias against Muslims and having a religious bias for or in favor for Protestant Christians, where he believes that he was doing the work of God, and then Muslims are extremists. We have beauty or appearance bias, where once a woman starts growing old, we assume she's not beautiful anymore. Once the breasts, which are naturally supposed to fall according to the law of nature, start falling, we assume that it's no longer standing. The woman is not in the beauty bracket anymore. We define things that align with our personal preferences as beauty, and things that are opposing our personal preferences as ugly. And in racism, if it's white, then it's beautiful. If the hair is silky, it's nice. If it's kinky, not good enough. If it's dark, maybe ugly or brown. Then we have self-serving bias, which is like making decisions from the lens of personal interest as against the general good. Okay, so we have discussed the character. Interestingly, women suffer all these. There are a lot more biases out there. I chose to discuss these 6 because they are the 6 that women suffer. So one woman can suffer all 6 at the same time. Okay, we move on. Appearance bias works against women in banking, where women are preferred to be relationship managers than men in banking. And the fairer the woman, the fastest she gets chosen for that job. And a man has to work extra to be able to get such roles, because we assume that when beautiful women appear at doors, those doors. So we've discussed gender bias. And according to the University of Cornell, it refers to a person receiving different treatment based on the person's real or perceived gender identity. So if you prefer male leadership against female leadership, then you are perpetrating gender bias already. And in some instances, if you prefer female leadership or you prefer the female in the kitchen as against the man in the kitchen, then you are also looking through a gender bias lens. How is bias affecting women? It affects them in leadership and governance. It affects them in education. It affects them currently largely in the STEM field, because of the stereotypes around gender. When girls want to pursue subjects in the STEM field, we turn from guidance to counselors to parents, and anyone who cares tends to unconsciously counsel them away from the STEM field, because we assume that they don't have the capacity enough to handle it. Recently, a young lady we met on a GEM outreach wanted to do architecture. She's very good in English and super good, excellent in pre-tech. So she wanted to go into architecture. Her mother thinks, nah, that's a pre-tech is a male-dominated field. If you go there, you start looking masculine. And since you start looking masculine, then you better go to a school that teaches courses that will make you maintain your femininity. So these are some of the ways that we prevent girls from going into the STEM field, which has led to us having a huge gap, a huge gender gap at the STEM area. We also have a huge power gap where men wield all the powers and women are in subordinate situations. In our parliament across the world, according to the a UN research, 24%, only 24% of parliamentary seats are held by women, which is woeful. And only 10 out of the 193 presidents across the world are women. Only 10. And averagely, across most countries, women form over 50% of the population. So if globally women form over 50% of the global population, why are we heading only 10% of the presidential seats out of 193. Gender bias is to blame for it. When we come to CEOs of Club 500 companies, we have only 6% being female. It's not that they don't have the capacity, they do, but because of gender bias, when we are recruiting, we prefer male to the female, and we will use the other roles women play, the unpaid roles that women play against them by saying, oh, if you pick a man, you will have him all the time. If you pick a woman for this role, she'll go on maternity leave, she'll be pregnant. When she resumes, she has to give excuses to go attend to the child. So because of all these things, we prefer to employ men more than women. Now, even in situations where we employ the women, a woman with the same qualification, delivering the same job output, will be paid less than her colleague male who is doing the same thing, coming from the same background with the same qualification. And it is because these decision makers look through the gender lens when they are making these decisions, consciously or unconsciously. But I believe it's more unconscious because I have a funny story where a guy who is so into women empowerment, he believes in female, young girls, developing girls and all that. He dedicates his time to this without any financial gain. And then we were developing a grant project, and he was to review the document and send it back to me. I had put in there a budget component that said distribution of sanitary pad, and I had attached a budget to that. By the time the document came from this gentleman, he had replaced sanitary pad with storybook. When I called to find out why, he was like, well, they are in school. Storybook are more important to and related to their education than sanitary pad. Now, this is a man who has the development of the girl child at heart, not only in words, but even in deeds. He actually goes out there to educate them and to build their capacity. But this is the same man unconsciously replacing sanitary pad, which is very critical to a girl's sustainability in the classroom, with storybook. So I believe that these decisions were not made necessarily consciously, but they were more unconscious. That is why unconscious bias is so dangerous. So how do we break the bias? At this point, we've discussed what the bias is briefly, what are some of the examples, how it affects women and girls and all that. Now, how do we break it, which is the most important thing? We need to, at the individual level, I call it, we need to beep up. Beep, as in when you're feeding a child, we put a beep around their neck so that they don't swell themselves, but the spelling is different. So at the individual level, we need to become aware of our own biases. So that is why I asked the question, what is your personal bias? The one you know, now you can easily tell us. The one you don't know, you need to consciously search for it. You need to consciously evaluate yourself, evaluate what influences your decisions, what influences how you navigate the power or governance or leadership environment, how you vote. Why do you vote for the people you vote for? I know people who are even involved in women empowerment activities, but they will never vote a woman. Not because they hate a woman, but unconsciously they think that if I vote for the woman, I'm actually even setting her up to be insulted, because African politics is quite dirty and it's quite tilted against women. But by not voting that woman, we are equally perpetrating bias against women, because if we have more women flooding the leadership arena, then there will be no awkwardness in voting one more. There will be no fear in exposing one more to the supposed or presumed dangers around leadership. So when the next time you are voting, ask yourself, why are you voting for that particular person? The next time you make a decision, ask yourself, what influenced this decision? What made you choose this guy over this lady whose resume equally matches that what the lady brought? They are equal. How are you going to be aware? You need to consciously search yourself, and you can do that. If you are managing a system, so at the individual level, be aware of your own biases. At the system level, be aware of the biases that influence decisions in the system that you manage. So if your system is recruiting, what influences the choices of candidates? You need to know. And if you notice a bias in there, then you can address it. So you need to examine the systems that you manage and find out if they are holding any unconscious biases and work at it. You have to embrace an open mindset. Some of us have a very rigid mindset, it's not open at all. And those are rigid mindsets are places that biases, especially negative biases, thrive. So if I am rigid-minded about what a woman can do, and I think that in my rigid mind, the woman is better in the kitchen, then it will be difficult for me to appoint that woman who comes through the door for an interview, no matter how good she performs, because I have a rigid mindset already. I have made up my mind before she even walked through the door. So you need to be open-minded, embrace an open mindset. And if you manage a system, so at the individual level, have an open mindset and judge people. Every individual is unique. So at the corporate level or system level, you need to develop progressive systems that are open to inclusion than limitations and thriving on what is. Create a system that is progressive enough to embrace what could be. Because what is, if you stick there, you could be losing a lot of opportunities that exist in opening up to what could be. And then accept each person is unique, each situation is unique, each idea is unique, and judge them by their attributes. So in Ghana, there's been noise about tribalism where we assume some tribes are rich, some tribes are poor, some tribes are arrogant, some tribes are flirtatious or promiscuous. And because of such biased judgments that we've made about such tribes, we deal with individual tribe members with these overall group biases that we have against them. So for instance, if an Akan believes that the Ewe tribe or a certain tribe is promiscuous, then if the son or the daughter brings a partner from such a tribe, they are like, I don't want to see you marry such a person because that person is from a promiscuous background. Not necessarily because the person has individually committed a crime or committed that promiscuity, but because of a perception about her overall or his overall tribe. So we need to accept that each person is unique. We need to be inclusive in our dealings, so be open. So talking to myself, I've been telling myself since I started preparing for today that next time a male is fixing my hair, I'm going to see it as normal. He's not special than the females who fix my hair. And I'm going to be deliberate about that till I get over that bias. I'm sure Lola would do the same by sitting in the car. And you know the car issue. Aside the driving, there's a funny story in Ghana where there's a man in Ghana who has been trying so much to fabricate vehicles in Ghana, which is something we should embrace. But we have a funny story that we share about her having him and the cars that he I think manufactures. And we share this story by saying, hey, in Kantake's vehicle, if you sit in it, before you know it, the tires are off and your back is on the road. And because of that bias, which is a bias against the quality of the vehicles he's producing. Interestingly, his pickups, I've sat in his pickups before, They are very strong. And you sit in his cars and you can hardly hit somebody when you are reversing, because as you are reversing, the vehicle start, the system in the vehicle start talking to you that you are going too fast, you are going to hit something, which we should embrace. But no, we have a bias for quality, and we assume that every quality stuff comes from the West or Europe. If it's a Ghanaian who made it, we because we are biased against homemade stuff, we automatically assume that they were not of good quality or they are not quality enough. So we need to be inclusive. We need to open up. And at the recruitment front, we need to be open in recruiting and be inclusive in recruiting. Some people, when they are recruiting security guys, bringing it again to a Ghanaian example, they assume that, oh, if you recruit from the northern region, they are very loyal. They stay at the gate. They never move. Even when a mosquito bites them, they never move. But if you recruit from other tribes, they move about. What if the northerner also moves? But because of that assumption, they will choose a northerner for the security job over another tribe. And we are saying that to be able to break the bias, we need to consciously be inclusive in our dealings. We need to recruit inclusively. We need to pay equally. We need to train. Sometimes when training comes in the job arena, and it has to be an out of office or out of location training, we quickly assume, oh, pile the guys. As for the women, they will say they have to cook for their families before they leave. So you move with the men. So mostly when it's an out of office, out of location training, men get to benefit more than their colleagues, women who equally need the same training. Same with opportunities. If opportunities come for a position that is out of location, we are quick to give it to men than we give it to the women, because we already judge them that because they are mothers, because of their motherly unpaid motherly roles, they can't get these opportunities. So in a way, we kind of even punish them for being mothers. And let's promote on equality, not because this person is male or female or from this tribe or from that tribe. Let's unlearn and relearn. Dealing with unconscious bias is difficult because you don't know it, you can't see it. You need to be conscious about it. So you need to consciously learn. So growing up, there were a lot of programming that went on, pitching men above women. There are religious doctrines that pitch men above women. If you still have those, if you haven't unlearned those unconscious biases, then it will be difficult for you to break the bias, even if you want to break it, because you may be willing to break it, but deep down, an unconscious underlying implicit bias is leading you to make decisions in the opposing direction. So please, let's unlearn. And unlearning is like a constant affair. You have to always be willing, be open to learn, unlearn. When a new idea challenges what your underlying beliefs, please open up and embrace the discomfort. It's very discomforting when an idea is opposed to yours and you feel like you're in a position to stamp your feet, but then stamping your feet will just continue the bias. And since we are committed to breaking the bias, let's open up, unlearn, relearn constantly. Let's create. So if you are personal at the individual level, unlearn and relearn constantly. At the corporate level, governance level, leadership level, where you are in charge of the system, please create an inclusive work culture. A culture that embraces all and gives an environment for all to thrive. Please preempt biases and implement deliberate policies to address them. Very important. We can never break the bias if we are not deliberate in creating policies. I will end by giving you a story where a group of men, in those days where the boardroom was like a boys' club, a group of men sat in the boardroom and classified sanitary pad as a luxury product. Now, these men were able, and they convinced themselves that sanitary pads were luxury items because in those days, their parents, their mothers, their sisters that they grew up watching were using cloth and other forms of materials to absorb their blood during their menses. So when they met their colleague females in the job arena who now want sanitary pads, which we didn't produce in our part of the world, they considered it luxury. You have the cloth that my mother used, but you want what somebody used in the white man's town. So then it was luxurious. It's a choice. So they classified it that way and taxed it heavily. So today women are screaming and crying about that task. Children, girls are exchanging sex for that same, to be able to afford sanitary pad because the tax makes it unaffordable for them. Not because these men hate women, but unconsciously, since they were not women and they did not menstruate, they didn't see it as a necessity. But if we break the bias and we are all in the boardroom, then we can preempt the biases when we start thinking, okay, between condom and sanitary pad, which one should be necessity? We can preempt the bias when we are all jumping at condom because sex is a choice. But if we preempt it correctly, then we can make a holistic policy that affects both favorably. So we could say distribute condom, even though it's a choice to have sex, but we want to keep people alive. But at the same time, make sanitary pads affordable and tax-free. And even if you can handle it in your economy, make it free and distribute it to senior high school girls in very, very deprived and remote communities. We can only do and achieve these policies if we preempt the biases in the policy-making process and make deliberate effort to deal with them, navigate them properly to be able to break the bias. Who is supposed to break the bias? I say we are all involved, which takes us to the next slide. We are all involved because we are all biased people. We are all involved in breaking the bias. The responsibility does not lie on any person's doorstep against the other. We are all, it demands collective effort. So I say society in general, because it is the people from society that go into the government and they bring the preconceived ideas they have already formed, that have been parented into them from this society and take it into government. Then we come to government, we say, make deliberate policies to break the bias. To family, we say, start parenting differently. The old approach, the way you were parented, if you use the same approach for your children, then we will continue to perpetrate bias against women. And when women are held back, the entire society is held back, because when women succeed, society succeeds. In fact, in countries where women are involved, let's take our own Rwanda at our backyard here. Let's take Canada from the West. These countries are thriving economically because women are 50% involved in making these decisions. And these decisions get to be holistic and they get to affect everyone's life equally, because when women think about things, they think about it holistically. And then we are talking about individual. You and I are involved. So Lola, you and I will join the bus next time we see a female there. We say a prayer and sit in it. By the third time we sit in it, we won't even say a prayer. We sit in it comfortably, confident in her capabilities to drive us even more safely, because statistics exist to show that women are better drivers. They are safer drivers than men.
That's right.
And then everyone, you and I, we are all involved. It's a call to action. Let us all together work consciously towards breaking the bias and building a more inclusive environment for females to thrive, because when they do, economies thrive and the world becomes a better place. Imagine that Russia and Ukraine were led by women. Please, our fellow men on this discussion, do you think they'll still be fighting right now? Once a shadow of a baby fell down, they'll be like, no, children are dying. Let's come to the talking table and negotiate. Let's not fight anymore. So you see, we need women in the decision-making arena. So let's make the environment a thriving one and a friendly one for all of us. We are all involved in breaking the bias. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you, Mom.
Amazing.
Wow.
I'm ready for questions, additions, and let's start.
Wow.
Thank you, Mom.
Take the opportunity to thank Juliana very much for this opportunity of presenting.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
No, hold on 1 second, Berkiso. So Juliana has another event she ought to be in, but for the love she had for us, she excused herself to be with us, so she wouldn't be able to stay throughout. And so I just want to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank her for the amazing presentation and the love for this group. And Juliana have told the group that you have given them a free project. It takes only 100 Ghana cedis to donate a box of a pad to a girl. And this is a project that I believe that the Alumni Network should partner with Girls Excellence Movement to do, because your presentation was spot on. In order for us to break the bias, we need to take action and not just become observers. And I know you ought to leave. That's why I was asking Lola if it's possible we can have 1 or 2 questions for Juliana before she leaves, because she has to attend to a very important meeting of the same caliber, and so she needs to prepare and go there. So please, if you want to ask a few questions and then excuse it. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ambassador Dr. Samuel Jagils. We appreciate you for always supporting us women. I know that you love us. You love everyone and you love us very, very well. Thank you, Madam Juliana. So let me just ask you 1 or 2 questions before you leave. Please, ma'am,
Okay.
what mistakes have you made along the way? And what helped you?
One mistake in the area of bias or general life?
General life.
Okay, one mistake. Okay. I want to still link it to bias. Okay. So the mistake I would like to share is about thinking that no matter what I achieve, no matter how high I climb, I need to tick the marital box at the time that society wants me to tick it. Yes, ticking the marital box is important. It should be, it's a desire you want to achieve. It should be done at the time that you are ready to do it. But the time I got married because they said, oh, at the age of 28, if you don't marry by 30, you find it difficult to give birth. So you have to marry. The clock is ticking. Your fertility clock is ticking. If you don't marry now, or you are achieving too high, pause and marry now. Otherwise, you scare the men off and you become an old spinster that will die lonely. And these ideas, even though I had gone to school and I was well read, I really love to read a lot, and I should have known better. These ideas were at the back of my mind in making a decision to marry at the time I did. So when you make the decision to marry and you make the decision at the wrong time, the person might even be right, but once you made the decision at the wrong time, things might not go well. So when I'm talking to young women who are working so hard, like alumni, you have finished school, you are developing yourself and looking out for better and bigger opportunities, always know that the timing for marriage is between you and the supreme being. So if you are a Muslim, it's between you and Almighty Allah. If you are a Christian, it's between you and God. If you are a Buddhist or a Hindu, it's between you and the supreme being. You and the supreme being that you believe in should make that decision so that you marry at the time that is right, not at the time that society thinks you should. I remember when I was going to get married, my boss at the time, I had just gotten employed and I was just like a year into employment. And my boss at the time was like, don't marry now. My bias was like, let me watch him with the side eye. I think he wants to keep me around so that he can come and hit on me himself before I could go and marry like an old used hag. So because of that, I didn't listen. And then I married at the time I shouldn't. He jumped on board and supported because that's what I wanted. So the advice is marry. One of my greatest mistakes that I consider a regret is the timing I chose to marry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. You even have some of these wrong notions about early marriage and biases concerning marriage in Nigeria. Where some people will bring 10 cows to pick a girl from her father's house. 10 cows or 15 cows. They just give them 10 cows and pick the girl. Everything about the girl will just stop there because we have to go and start, acting as a wife.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, let me ask you the second question. What are some patterns you have noticed over the years about women at work and things they should be doing better?
Okay, I'll still again, because we are in the bias month, I'll link it to bias. My pattern I've noticed is that women, we assume, and it's a bias, that women are fashioned against each other. Women do not support each other. So we will always throw that careless phrase around, women are their own enemies. But I have noticed in my journey so far that women support women when they are very aware of their biases. It is when they are not aware of the biases that they use the stereotypes and the gender roles that they've been programmed with against each other. Because as I grow on the ladder, I notice that when a woman on top sees you coming, they reach out and try to help you up. They try to provide all the opportunities. They try to link you up. They try to support you. But because we have this mindset that women are their own enemies, even when they reach out to try to help, you are looking out for, why is she trying to help me? She's trying to make me her servant, or she's trying to. So you try to find all the negative reasons why she might have been reaching out. But for all you know, in my experience, it gets lonely in some of these boardrooms when you enter and you are the only one. And you make a point and you have no one to validate your point because all the other voices there don't see it from your point of view because it's either they haven't experienced such what you are talking about before or they simply cannot talk about it. So it gets lonely in the boardrooms where you go and you are only 3 of you. You need more. So sometimes when they are reaching out just because they want more people in the boardroom. I go to gym even when I'm sick because I want more women in the boardroom in the future. And I'm thinking the adults already have their own mindset. So let's catch them young and groom them to be ready and hungry for the boardroom. So the pattern is women support each other. But if you are not conscious, you read it as they are against each other. And that is where bias comes in. We play women against each other. And because usually men find it difficult to submit to female leadership, when there is a female around, they play them against each other and it's a power play. So once they are playing the game and you don't notice it as a power play, you personalize it and you assume that it's your fellow woman who has planned this against you. Meanwhile, it is purely power. So on the power game, if a woman jumps in front of you, don't read it personal. Don't take it personal. Take it as a game because in the corporate arena, it is power play at a certain level. So when you get to that level and they are playing the game, they are simply playing the game. The men play the game, and when they get out, they go and drink beer together. But when the women play the game and get out, they go and complain and hate each other later. So we need to know the difference between a personal issue happening at the workplace or in school or wherever it is you are, as against when life is simply happening or game is simply being played.
Thank you. Miss Lola, if we can give people a chance to ask questions instead of us just asking the questions. So if anyone has questions, since we have a limited time, we can have
there is one in the chat room.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll read it. It says, you said you have noticed that women support women when they are aware of the biases. There are workplaces that does not provide the needed assistance for working mothers. In what ways can such biases be broken? Support such as break for school runs, allowing kids in safe zones at workplaces, time to attend school open days, etc. So I guess the question there is like, in what ways can such biases be broken in terms of providing needed support and assistance for working mothers?
There's a woman who has handled that in India when she headed Coca-Cola company, and find her and read about her. She decided to break the norm and take her child to the workplace. The guys frowned at it for a while. She kept taking the child there. And she became the boss. So you couldn't sack her because she was the decision maker now. So she kept taking her child to work. And when other women were employed, once they saw her taking her child to work, they started taking their own children to work too. With time, Indra. With time, that's her name. With time, thank you for sharing it with us. Please check the chat box is there and read more about her. With time, when it was time to make policy, Pepsi then made a policy to provide a nursery in their workplace for working mothers to bring their kids close. Another example exists in Ghana when our former First Lady called Nana Kunedu Ajiman Rawlings created nurseries around all the ministries where women were working in public service. And at the time, women working in public service were woefully paid. Their salary, they were woefully underpaid. And they couldn't afford the crèche and all those ones that were so expensive. So she, together with her 31st December Women Movement at the time, decided to create nurseries around the ministry for public sector women to take their children to work. So it goes back to my point that if we make the boardrooms inclusive and we have more women with decision-making rights, not just representation. Oh, because we have signed the UN Charter, we are 60 men. You just throw in one woman, call that woman at the gate and throw her in. No, not that one. Deliberate effort to make women involved in decision-making roles in the boardroom. Then decisions will be made in a way that affects the holistic lifestyle of everyone. But when you put only men there, it's not like they hate their children. They just don't know what to do with them at that time because they are not the one breastfeeding. So when he goes to the boardroom and they are talking about expand maternity leave, he's thinking, hey, 4 more months of you staying away and the company pay you. No. We don't have the budget for that. Let's replace her with a man. But if you have more women in that boardroom, they are like, okay, we need to still have holistic families. So how about she wants 4 more months away from the work and still be paid? How about we create a nursery here? So she brings this child during lunchtime. She dashes to the nursery, breastfeed, and come back to work. And it's happening in a company in Ghana now they call Data Bank. They have a school in their building, and the female workers who are nursing mothers go there during lunchtime to feed these kids and come back and sit at work. So when we include women in the boardrooms, in the decision-making position, not just include them to be there, no. They should be there and they have a right to vote. They have a voice there, and that voice is heard and heeded. Once we have that, decisions will benefit everyone. For instance, if you leave a male, it's also, I'm biased now, the male here, you can notice my bias, and I'm happy I'm noticing it. If you leave a male child with a father, they will play all the games in the world, including football. They will read all the technical stuff and everything. I don't think he will send him and say, Keon, go to the kitchen and cook jollof rice. No. He will say, Keon, come to the kitchen. Let me teach you how to make jollof. But when Keon moves out of the house, he needs that cooking skill because it's a life skill. But if the mother is in the house at that moment, the mother will say, Keon, enough of the play. Time to come and learn how to prepare some jollof rice because you are leaving for college next week and you need to be able to feed yourself. So you see, when women are involved, then we think about the things that are on the blind side of the men. And then when we are also involved, the men also get to think about the things that are on the blind side of the women. And together, it is society that wins. Nobody loses. Society wins.
Thank you very much for that. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think when you were doing the slide on how to break the bias, one of the things that really hit me was the unlearning part, because there's times where we work so hard to get women in, and then when we get there, our own biases come up, and so we begin to agree with the men. And I noticed that for myself because I'm in a position now where, not in the alumni per se, but in a different space where I'm occupying a space where men historically have, and it's really uncommon for a woman to be there. And I find myself that I constantly have to think about, no, I have to be my own leader and not go by what I think the men would want, and go by what I know is important and what needs to be done. Because and now that I'm talking about it, I notice that that's a bias that I go to. And sometimes you begin to get scared of making a decision because of being criticized or whatever as a woman, or maybe being labeled as too emotional or too whatever other words that they can use. And so the unlearning part is very important, for us to do, and recognizing that so we can be able to actually make decisions that are in favor of everyone. Because like you said, when women are making decisions, we are making a decision that is long-term, one, and that is also inclusive of everyone. And I'm not saying that men don't, because I don't want it to be biased, but sometimes when they do, it's more like, how can we make more money and how can we do this versus how can everybody's life actually change for the better? So that's just a comment I wanted to make. I'm not sure if anybody has another question that they wanted to ask before we let you go. We don't want to let you go because this is amazing.
I was going to say that we want to keep it, but then we have to.
Female, when I was heading a department that supports or is very instrumental in planning state visits. Now, these visits have three risks. They come with three risks: the risk of security blunder, the risk of diplomatic blunder, and the risk of accuracy or quality. And I noticed as I was assigning the task that I'm tilting towards the men, because when I say, okay, Macron is coming to Ghana, be at the airport at the VIP lounge at 1 a.m. They have no comment. They are there 1 a.m. Macron arrived. I get to sleep at 1 a.m. Wake up in the morning and find Macron being well taken care of wherever we have assigned for him to be hosted. I find if I position a woman there, then the question is, Madam, 1 a.m. and then my husband won't agree to drop me, and then my children. So I started thinking, okay, when I was developing a recruitment plan, I put in recruitment needs for 80 men against 10 women.
Oh, Lord.
Then unlearning hit me when I was reviewing the plan, and I noticed, did I just do this? But if we don't give more women the chance to be there, they will have the issues repeating themselves. So I checked myself and I made it 40 women, 40 men needed. And whoever is implementing the plan decided to implement whatever. But I satisfy myself knowing that I broke the bias in that report. So the bias is there. You can be as learned as possible because parenting programs are so deeply. You have to be conscious, constantly learning and unlearning, constantly assessing your biases. We all have it.
All right. Thank you very much, Ma. Really appreciate your coming around. We appreciate you for that beautiful insight. The way you talked about the kitchen, I remember my brother when we were little. I asked him to go and buy salt for me. He told me, Daddy said I should not be buying salt, that I'm a man. And because of that, we could not put salt in the soup because I was actually watching over my little baby with me that day. So we couldn't put salt in the soup that day. He specifically told me, Daddy said I should not be buying salt, that I'm a man. And he did not go.
So imagine he doesn't unlearn that and he grows into a board chair or he grows into a policy implementer and the issue of salt comes up. Do you think he will really bother?
No.
He won't really, because salt is not on his radar at all. Unless as he is growing, somebody deliberately links salt to a source of making money. Once money becomes attached to it, then his little brain will wrap it up and be tasting salt. Until then, he won't. So that is why we need to constantly learn and unlearn. I haven't heard from our gentlemen. My bias against you is becoming obvious, so come and call me out.
We obviously wanted you to be at your program successfully, so we don't want to distract you. That's why we are not speaking. Men, we like to support women and give them full energy to go and do the work that they are doing. But Juliana, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I'm always excited. I'm always in love with you, and we appreciate your willingness and your love. And
thank you, Mark.
Look forward. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Permission to fall out.
Permission granted.
Ambassador Regina Inem. She's the Executive Director of Rejamos Foundation, class of 2021. It's a pleasure to have you here. You will also go ahead and tell us more about yourself as you answer the questions. We are looking forward to that. Also, in our panelists, we also have Loretta Ahok-Peme, Executive Director, Our Lady of Perpetual Help Initiative. Both are also the former class attendees of ESLM 2021 and 2022, meaning they are part of the alumni network. And we would like to welcome them to say hi, greet us before we go to the panel questions and discussion. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Caroline. Nice seeing you again. I'm excited to be here.
Yes,
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very well. Please go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, I'm Regina Inem, and I'm so glad to see Dr. Jacobs Abe again.
Hey.
My boss.
Hi.
And our great alumni president and vice president and the whole team. You're all doing great. And thank you for inviting me here to come share my experience.
Welcome. It's a pleasure. We look forward to getting to know you more than we know you. So we are staying input, looking forward to that. I would like to invite Ms. Loretta Ahok-Peme to introduce and say hi to the audience.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody.
Good evening.
I'm happy to be back connected again with my network. Most times it's always at the WhatsApp platform, but at least once in a while we have the opportunity to meet like this, and it's wonderful meeting us here. And my name is Loretta Ahok-Peme. I am the Executive Director of Our Lady of Perpetual Help Initiative. And what can I say? I don't know, but I'm just me. I don't know, but I'm me. I'm just me. Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your introduction. And just within your introduction, I would like to give you a moment to just tell us a little bit of what you do before we ask you questions on how you got there. A little bit of what you do, just a snippet. Yes, please go ahead.
I'm the Executive Director of Regamus Foundation. And at Regamus Foundation, we are passionate about transforming the lives of widows, youth, abused girls, and orphans. And we do this through educational programs. We also do this through empowerment initiatives, community development initiatives, and advocacy. So just a little.
Nice. Amazing to know what you're doing, especially in the society that we're in and key societal issues that you're dealing with. Thank you very much and well done on the great job that you're doing. Miss Loretta, tell us a snippet of what you do. What does your foundation and organization involve?
Yeah, we actually do advocacies around health issues. We do advocacies on environment. And of course, you can't talk about health without talking about the environment. What affects the environment? 100% affects health. So these two things are interwoven. And we do peace building and gender. And when we talk about peace building, we build peace around all these three areas. When it comes to gender, we talk about all the violence against, different genders and how we manage this violence. How do we manage this conflict? How do we resolve this conflict? How do we promote peace so that at the end of the day, we have a win-win? And also at the same time, if it is a criminal offense, we go ahead for prosecution. We actually work with Nigerian security agencies, and we work with, like now I am in Rivers State, Nigeria. We work with Rivers State Response Team on Violence Against Women and Children. So we do a lot of resolutions on domestic violence. We do a lot of counseling. We do a lot of promotion and protection of human rights, and as well as educate and inform their minds on what it takes to be healthy, as well as keeping the environment healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From both of you, we recognize that you're working in a very sensitive area. And today our theme is breaking the bias. And we have a few questions for you to help us understand how you are able to maneuver, how are you able to execute, how are you able to work with people of both genders in your work. And our first question is, what helped you the most to make this your career as a woman? Did you get the question?
Yeah, I did, but you have to direct the question either to Regina or to me so that we don't clash, because we could start at the same time. And, so when you ask your question, you either say Regina or Loretta so that we will be able to respond adequately.
That's totally fine, because both of you are dealing in different regions. It would be good to understand the diversity. And that's why we are going in the order of first Dr. Ambassador Regina and then Loretta, because you're two unique people in different fields, dealing with different situations in the same topic. So, Dr. Regina, what helped you to make this your career as a woman?
Okay. Now I'm going to say it in two variants. I've always been working before I founded the foundation, and heading different organizations before I founded the foundation and started my own thing. Now, in the space of heading organizations, I've always been a lone woman in the midst of men. occupying top positions. And I can tell you that it has never been easy. You see a lot of opposition because the feel a woman shouldn't rise that high. And sometimes the men get to tell me, do you know I have a wife in the house? And I tell them, yes, you have a wife in the house, but I'm not your wife. I am the boss here. So, so sometimes they bring that to the table. And I stand my ground and I tell them, we have the policy here guiding the work. We do the work and we are not going to look at gender. The gender bias won't come in. So from day one, I stood my ground and I never allowed any man intimidate me. And this has helped me to rise and be successful in my career. Now, coming into the foundation also, this has also helped. You know, sometimes when we carry out in the field of our work, for example, a child is being abused and you go to the station with the perpetrator, maybe the man, and you see the policeman say, these women have come again. They want to intimidate us. You know, I'll say no. This offense has been committed. By law, this is what should happen. And I stand my ground there and ensure that the perpetrators are brought to book. So it has not been easy breaking this bias. But one thing I can tell you categorically, one, I have very good self-esteem. I can never be intimidated. And that is what, I think that is a major factor that has helped me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Confidence and self-esteem and believing in yourself. Thank you so much. Miss Loretta, what helped you? What has helped you in this career that you're doing right now, especially in the topic that we have today?
Yeah, even like I said in my video, my father actually broke that bias for me first. My mother had us 8 girls, and there was no boy. And in my father's circle, he was more comfortable than others. And they were like, why would he have all girls without boys? Who is going to inherit his family? Who is going to extend his lineage and all that and all that? And eventually he succumbed and married a second wife. They had my stepmother had another 2 girls, and then the boys came and all that and all that. But then my father insisted that all of us girls must go to school. It was actually the first bias the first bias that was broken for me. And my father constantly called us while we were growing up to say, you girls live in enmity. You girls live in enmity. You have to work harder. You have to work harder to excel. And I didn't understand it, but I knew that I wanted to be successful on my own. But when I grew up and looked back, I said, oh, so this was why this man was always pushing and ensuring that at least for us that as we are in school, we should be able to do well. And because I now looked back and saw the enormity of the bias against women, against girls, I decided that I must also impact society the way my father impacted his family by ensuring that all his girl children went to school. And not just going to school, you must do well in school. Because of the constant push, because of the constant meeting, because of the constant counseling from him, we realized that we need to do well. So I would say my father was a gender-friendly person. He may not have known exactly what he did, but for us, it was a big deal. And that is actually what is still sustaining me and my siblings up till today. He was such a wonderful man. And then for this job, when I look back and saw all the issues lined up that is against women, I felt that I must give back. And by giving back, I must work with all the genders. Because I know that ever since I started this work, I've been to so many meetings. And when we want to meet, they will say, no, we can't sit with women. And I will tell them, if women are not going to be part of this meeting, then I will not be part of this meeting. Why am I here? Sometimes I go to meeting, I am the only girl, the only woman there. And I keep insisting, I need at least, even if it's 2 other women, bring them in. And when those women come, they will still sit aside from the men And when you ask them direct questions, they're no, hey, we can't say anything. No, the men should speak. So we need to make women understand their place. And that is what I am doing. I am sensitizing the women to understand that they need to take their space. They don't need to wait for anybody to give them the space. And that is why it is actually very important for us in Nigeria right now, as we are fighting for these gender bills that the National Assembly has rejected. If it is very important for us, because if you cannot grant our husband citizenship simply because he's a foreigner, and you can't give me indigenship, even as I am married now, this year I am 25 years in marriage, and I still cannot actually claim my husband's state or village as my place because of the law. It is just a mere lip service, but deep down, when it comes to taking maybe positions in governance, in government, or taking up public positions in certain ministries, that's when all the odds will rear their heads, and you start seeing the biases. No, she's not from this state. Oh, she just got married here. She's not from this state. And we have had such issues in Nigeria played out in so many states. And that is why when they called for this constitution review, the women came together as a coalition and said, we must present this case. And we presented it. And the National Assembly is kicking and fighting against it. And the women are standing their ground. So it's important for us that we get that 35% affirmative action in leadership, in political leadership, and in governance. Because if we don't, then it's going to be 30 years back of all the struggles of women up to now. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much for telling us what has helped you standing your ground, knowing, and also getting mentors on the road. Speaking about mentors, which women or which lady is your inspirer? Who motivated you to do this? Specifically ladies, who, one or two, just, and why? Why do you look up to them?
Okay, I would say for me, I decided to drive the cause of women because of a woman in my neighborhood. She lost a husband and she had about 3 kids left with her. And our source of income was just petty trading, smoking fish, very small quantity. And every day I passed, I saw this woman. She was losing herself. The children were getting thin, wearing pants, staying on the road. You will see hunger written all over her and her family. And a voice spoke to me, go and help that woman. And that is how I started. I started with a widow. And a case really motivated me to go out and help widows out there, because a lot of them, some of them don't have strong financial base, and the children suffer. And once the children suffer, we are going to be breeding criminals, and the whole country will be in danger. Another thing that really, made me to get into the drive to empower women is when I was about 17 years old, a house was burning in my neighborhood, and I and my brother sneaked out to go check what was happening. And what we discovered, a man burnt his wife alive because he wanted to get rid of the wife and marry another woman outside. It was a very terrible situation. So I've seen women die. About 3 women died in matrimonial homes because they don't have the financial capacity to separate and take care of their children. So because I don't want women to die, because I want to see widows being empowered to take care of their children, that is what has motivated me to get into this foundation to help other women.
Thank you very much. That's very inspirational. Thank you so much. Miss Loretta, who inspired you and why?
Like I said before, a lot of things happened while my father married a second wife. I'm using myself, I'm telling my story so that people could understand where I'm coming from and they could also key into what I am doing. When my father married a second wife, my father's relatives were like, send this woman away with the horde of female children she has. It was only my father that stood his ground and said, no, she is my wife and these children are mine. I won't send them away. So when we were growing up, my father kept hammering on living in enmity. And when we look around us, we see that we were being segregated against simply because we were female children. And that was before my mother eventually had the first son. My mother still ended up having the first son in the family. But before then, we saw that we were being segregated against. People did not felt we were anything. And even when the way my father's relative were also relating to my mother was like she was a pariah. You know, she doesn't have anything to offer. She can't do anything. And since she has all female children, she doesn't have a say. Well, I grew up and I started noticing not just my mother, but I also noticed that this is also applicable to other women around her and around the community. And even in the urban cities, it's not just in the rural communities that you see this. It happens all around us. Everywhere you look around, women are suffering. For one reason or the other. Either you didn't have a male child, or you had a male child and you have all male child, and then you are also in trouble for having all male children. You don't have a girl. It's a problem. So I saw that there are so many obstacles, so many barriers against women, against girls growing up, especially education. Because while we were going to school, some of my classmates, some of my friends I know, even up till now, didn't go to school because their parents didn't deem it necessary to send female children to school. So my father broke that bias, and so many other families, when they saw how we were prospering as women, because we are doing well in our spheres, wherever different places we are working, when they saw how good we were doing, they were forced to also send their children to school. So I felt that I should be able to sensitize more families. I should be able to reach out to more women, to learn their stories, to know how they are faring, so that it will also help me build the capacity to know how to engage men, to know how to engage government, to know how to engage the traditional schools. Even in my community now, we are working seriously on something that has been there for years. And this one, they're even telling us it has a spiritual connotation. For every married woman in my place, you cannot mistakenly sleep with another man. It's a taboo. It has some kind of spiritualism around it. But that is a story for another day, because it's a very long story. We don't want to go into it. But these are I'm just trying to tell you that these are some of the issues women are facing. Whereas the man has all the women around, and even still go chasing the women that he knows that are not supposed to sleep with another man. The man will still go ahead and chase. And when I speak about such things in public places, they're like, this girl, you talk too much. Who gives you this impetus? I say, well, I am just speaking the truth. If I am not saying the truth, then let me know. So I am actually having my motivation and inspiration from what my mother passed through, from what other women in my community passed through, from what my neighbors are passing through, from what girls are passing through in my community, even right now, that some girls still do not have the opportunity to go to school simply because their parents said they are girls. So it is not over for me. So it is a continuous journey, and we must break that bias. Every girl must have that opportunity to go to school. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And we recognize that now, regardless of the where you are now key female leaders. You're doing well in your careers. Do you have any barriers in the workplace? Any gender-related issues? Do you have them? Do you experience them? How do you deal with that as a leader?
Hey, Karen, before they answer that, we have just 5 minutes, just FYI, so we can wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the heads up.
Okay. In my workplace, I'm the team lead. So naturally, they just have to fall in place. However, in the field, yes. Now, Madam Loretta has talked so much about cultural biases, and that's one thing that pains me the most, and I am interested in fighting doggedly. My passion is for widows, as I said earlier. We have cultural bias facing widows. Once a man dies, it is the wife that killed him. Once the woman died, nature has taken its course. And the spouse dies, and this woman is made to go through some cultural bias, some custom bias, some traditional bias that is barbaric. When they are meant to drink the cups, the water from the cups of the man. And aside drinking the water from the cups of the man, they are also meant to maybe do some other things. They have to marry someone from that family. They have to do a whole lot of barbaric things. So for me, this bias must stop. And we need more women in governance that can affect policies to correct this bias.
Yes.
And yes, we're talking about in Nigeria, the National Assembly, women are tackling them. We shouldn't be tackling those in National Assembly if we had enough women representation there. And that's why when our speaker for today was speaking, I was really, I was happy because she talked about women, people making the policy. So women have to be in there to make the policy that will favor them. And 2023 is around the corner. I say, women, stand up, get into the National Assembly, become the governors, become the president, so that we will be able to break this cultural bias and other biases that is affecting women in Africa.
Thank you very much. Just as you were talking about it, very powerful to know that why we need women at the top. It's very necessary. And to Miss Loretta, what would you say about having women at the top, and also recognizing that we need to work together with the male gender in the society for harmony? How do you balance that?
Yeah, for me, I know that there's nothing we can do as women right now without having men with us. We must work with men. We must work with the youth. We must work with children. It is a holistic and collective effort for us to push women more into the governance space. And that is why we are doing the grassroots sensitization we are doing now. And that is why we are building more alliances with men. Because we know that there are men that, that are he for she, and they are not happy about what is happening in our governance. So they are solidly behind the women, collaborating, partnering with us, giving us tips on what and how to go about ensuring that these bills, we get it passed. And not just that, also working at the local communities to ensure that some of these biases are dropped. Because if these cultural biases are dropped, I am telling you that tomorrow, women will be where they want to be. And I'm telling you that for me, I do not wait for anybody. I feel that women should stand up and get in there. We don't need to continue to wait until it is given. We need to take it. And the time to take it is now. And that is exactly what the Women Coalition is doing to ensure that we have more women representations in our government across the local government, across from the communities to the local government, to the states, to the national. We must be there, because it's only when we are there that the issues concerning women will be taken more seriously, and we are inclusive by nature. Because when a woman is there, she thinks about the husband, she thinks about the children. Therefore, women must be at the top. And I support that strongly. And we will continue to work with all genders across board to ensure that we get what we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Loretta. As we wrap up, one final question to Ms. Regina. As a leader in breaking the bias, as a leader in the society, ensuring that there's policy making and everything, what is your advice to the next generation leaders of females who are currently listening to you?
I can't seem to hear you, please. What did you say?
Yes, as a parting shot right now, we're just wrapping up right now. We have leaders in our midst who are female, and they are the next generation. They are listening to you. What is your advice?
My advice is this: one, have a very good self-esteem of yourself. Once you're very confident and you are not easily pushed over, you will stand your ground. Two, I'm always spiritual when I talk. Build a relationship with God. Why do I say that? Inspiration, creativity, innovation of how to be a successful woman leader comes from above. So I would say, have that relationship so that you get divine inspiration to do wonders and be an Amazon that you all are.
Thank you very much. That was the last question. Thank you, Ms. Regina and Ambassador Regina and Ms. Loretta. Thank you so much for answering those questions. I believe we have both learned, all of us here, even the male, to know how to support us and how we ought to work together, because we are one. We are one society. I just want to keep that in check. Yes, Ms. Lola, you had something, and then after that, I will hand back to the Master of Ceremony. Ms. Lola, please take over. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my VP, ever smiling VP. Thank you very much. Yeah, I wanted to ask Dr. Regina, how do we format the head of our leaders in Nigeria? They don't want us in that leadership seat at all. How do you format their head?
Did you what?
How do we format their head? Our leaders in Nigeria.
Okay.
How do we format their head?
Let's get in there to format their head. You can't format anybody from outside. That's the truth.
But they're not allowing us to get in.
You can't format. We have to get in. We have to mobilize women to get in. And you can't sit at home to get in.
Okay.
You have to mobilize women. Come out. Join the forces of women out there. Join the coalition of women out there. I and Loretta, we belong to a lot of women organizations. For example, in my state, I am in charge of women in politics in that state. And if you want my women, you come for me and we tell you what to do. So you have to get in there. You cannot stay outside and want to format their head from outside. It won't work.
I wanted to add that what we need now, right now, as the 2023 is around the corner, is that we must collectively educate the grassroots women for them to understand what it means to work in coalition with other women, so that we could get more of our women into governance. If we do not sensitize them properly for them to understand, because at all times, across the time that we have had election in Nigeria, 3/4 of the voters are women. So if we have that strength, then we should be able to utilize it properly and ensure that we have more women this time into different governance positions. And that will help us. And I know that some other traditional rulers also have started including women into their cabinet. It is simply a little waters that are flowing and dropping. But if we continue to pressurize, if we continue to sensitize and advocate, we will get there. But for governance, we must get in there by 2023. Anyway, the men are doing it, we must do it that way. Thank you. That's why we are reformatting their head.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Everyone, can we unmute ourselves and please clap for our panelists? Let's appreciate them. Let's appreciate them. Let's appreciate them. We have learned a lot today.
Ayiko, you have done well.
Thank you so much.
You
Thank
guys
you.
have done
Ayiko,
well. You've done well. You've done well.
That
You've
is
done
awesome.
well.
Beautifully submission.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. We also appreciate Madam Juliana. We appreciate her. Dr. Jacob, we appreciate you. So I'll be inviting our president to give us a closing remark.
Oh, that is too early.
So, Loretta.
Lola. Lola.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think I just pray that the women are very ready to take up the roles and responsibilities in leadership. And then they can get on board. So as you organize them, as you speak to them, as you convince them that these are the challenges ahead of times, and they buy into it, I'm sure women will rise to the expectations and they will perform and perform very well. I think this is a very good program, and we have to repeat this again. Thank you very much. Now our president can speak to us.
Thank you very much.
You,
Thank you for
Mr.
believing in us.
Thank you so much for adding that to it. This has been amazing. I actually don't want us to close because it's just such an important conversation that we are having here. Miss Loretta and Ambassador Regina, thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak to us. I just love how personal you guys got with your conversations, because it spoke to us a lot, and we really appreciate it. Auntie Juliana, we know you're not here and you probably will see this later, but we say very big thank you to you. I learned so much from your presentation. Sometimes we think that we know what biases are and everything like that until you get a presentation like she gave us and you're like, wow, I'm learning more than I thought I knew. So thank you so much. I definitely have learned. I think one of the things that I personally am taking, and I encourage that we all think about the presentation and take out one thing that is to help you to kind of help break the bias. So one of the things for me is the unlearning part. I think as women, as we are coming on the top, we have to really unlearn some of these things and actually put it into action and be able to teach our young ones as well. Because the only way that we can reformat people's heads and the men's brains and everything is through the unlearning and actually put it in action so that they can see that we have the strength to be able to do this. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's been an awesome time. We plan and we are hoping and trusting that we can put more of these up for people to come and learn so that we can have these great conversations and know how to influence our societies, our families, wherever we find ourselves, so that we can indeed break the bias. Breaking the bias is not ending this year. It's not just a theme for this year. It should be our life goal that we are going to continue to break the bias continually and do things that will gain us the respect to be able to be in these positions, to do what we need to do to break the bias. So before we leave, I just want us to leave. I was looking up a bunch of quotes yesterday regarding International Women's Day, and one resonated really well with me, and I want us to leave us with this. It's from Elaine Welteroth, and she said, "When the world tells you to shrink, expand." So as we are leaving, if the world is telling us to shrink as women, we need to expand, and we do that with education, and we need to do that with making sure that we are actually, when we are in these positions, we are doing the best that we can in these positions, and we are not being lazy in these positions. So thank you guys all one more time, especially Dr. Jacobs. I know how much you have worked so hard behind the scenes to help us make this successful. So God bless you so much for all that you have put into it. To all the leadership, God bless you so much. You guys have worked tirelessly. Sister Lola, Miss Caroline, you, Duak, Sharon, everyone, plus Pastor Clement, everyone has worked so tirelessly to make this successful. And we say we really appreciate all the hard work that you have put in. So until next time, we say God bless you and bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye, women.